Hello and welcome to my channel. I'm Michaela Peters. If I'm looking really tired, it's because I kind of am. And like I disclaimed last week, this is going to be one of the last recordings I do for like 2 weeks probably, actually. Maybe like 13 days. Because I'm not going to be in a situation where I can get away from being near people until then. So that's a lot of what's been going on. I have this one day where I'm alone, and also for a relatively short period of time because I have a bunch of appointments today and lots of other stuff going on. But because the video of me talking about why Lappeenranta sucks for a lot of international people became very interesting to many. I, in fact, had somebody I know living in Lappeenranta who's lived in Lappeenranta for a long time and has settled in Lappeenranta explain to me a little bit about why she didn't agree with it, which, to be honest, I don't even agree with the view myself. So that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today, because I think that was more of a retrospective video, retroactive, whatever, both of those, I suppose, because I was speaking from my initial experience, and I was also speaking from the experience of that of other people. I have another friend. So I mentioned Pakistani people in particular moving to larger cities, and again, attributing that to the fact that a lot of them come from more densely populated areas. It is a more densely populated country. Vietnamese people are another group of foreigners in Finland who are particularly prevalent academically, who also have a similar situation. And yesterday I had the opportunity to meet with one of my Vietnamese friends. And it's honestly been hard for her adapting to living in Helsinki, even though, again, people move there for job prospects, and she was able to successfully find work, and she likes her job, and that's all really great. But it is hard for her in terms of, she did like how Lappeenranta was a bit more low-key, and it's like beautiful here. So again, making this more about, my opinions and why I have come to love Lappeenranta as a place, that's what I'm going to talk about more today. So one of the philosophies I've been telling people that I abide by at this point, and I feel like I have mentioned this in another video, is if everybody in the area where you lived died, all your friends, relatives, whoever, would you still want to be there? And this is the thing that I ask myself a lot now when I think about more permanently settling down, which at this rate, who knows when that's going to happen for me, but I ask myself that a lot. And that's part of what drove me to explore different parts of the US and ultimately decide that I still think New Jersey is, and this is a very strong opinion, and people can disagree with me, and that's fine, but I think New Jersey is the superior state. What do I mean by that? For me, it is preferred. Okay, so that's an opinion, it's not a fact. And I think I like New Jersey because I think it has a lot of variety. It's close to major airports. It's close to major cities. The airports I like, the cities don't care for, because I'm not a city person, as I've explained many times. But I could see why that'd be attractive to other people. Or if I need to go there for something, I don't know, even just like things like embassy stuff. Not that I do that a lot, but like if I were to apply for a Russian visa in the US, I would have to go to New York City, and it's really not that inconveniently far from where I live. Same thing with the airports. I also like that New Jersey has a lot of diversity in terms of it has rural, it has urban, and I like being near the beach, I like being near water. So, why do I like being in Lappeenranta? Kind of what I just mentioned. It has water. I actually don't know what Lappeen means, so you can tell me in the comments below, but Ranta means shore. So what is the city surrounded by? A shore, or water, which I really like. And I think when I first got to Lappeenranta, I found the most beautiful running trail I've ever laid eyes on in my entire life, the Ranta. And that's like why I love Lappeenranta, because my favorite hobby is running. And until I came to Lappeenranta, I had not found another running trail that I liked more than a park that is somewhat near my house in New Jersey. And that park I particularly liked. It did have some water. It doesn't have as much water as the Ranta, but it had a lot of open space, woods, trees, a trail. Like, I just think it's beautiful. And every time I'd run there, I would feel really good. And that's how I feel running on the Ranta. So that's really like the biggest reason why I like Lappeenranta, because if nobody was here, I would still enjoy that activity by myself. Now, in terms of getting away from that, I like that they're okay. So it is very convenient being a student in Lappeenranta. I'm not going to deny that, especially if you're located near the university. And I like the fact that there's access to sauna, yeah, and I do utilize the university a lot. I like the library in the university. I like that there's a view of the lake from it. Those are things that, like, I just like alone. The fact that there is I like universities, okay? I've always enjoyed just being at a university by myself and not even necessarily needing to interact with people in a university. I just like the aura of a university because I like learning. So being near a university, being near a nice running trail, like, I literally don't need anything else. I've also said a lot in the past, if money were no object, I would just stay a student forever. Look where we are today, no surprise. Yeah, and then the cool thing that I've always said is the better student you are, the more money you eventually get for it. Obviously not as much money as working, but still. So I thoroughly enjoy those things. Now, if we're going to get more... Actually, no, let's not even get into the socializing with people aspect yet, because that's not what I'm focusing on right now. One of the things that I actually do complain about a bit with Lappeenranta is the bus schedule being, it's not even inconsistent. It's just that the later in the evening you're trying to take the bus, the less frequently it's going to run. So you really need to pay attention to the bus schedule. I also have issues looking up the bus schedule. Yeah, probably a user error, but still a challenge nonetheless. But I like how you can just take the bus to the Matkakeskus, like a travel center, and take the train to Helsinki. It's only like 2 hours, kind of similar to my New York situation, and when I'm in New Jersey. And, you can get to the airport, you can do whatever you need to do in Helsinki. Sometimes I go to Helsinki to, like, run the half marathon or do something else related to running. There's a Vanta 10K I've done before, those kinds of things. And I very nicely have a friend who lets me always stay with her in the area, which I appreciate a lot, so shout out to her. But I have enough access to going to a metropolitan area if and when I need to, and getting to an airport. Also, Lappeenranta has an airport. Not that this airport is particularly useful these days because it only flies to Milan. But back when I first came to Lappeenranta, it flew to Hungary and it flew to Germany, which in some ways sucks because it was like the whole COVID thing and I didn't have the vaccine, the European one, which you needed to travel. So I couldn't take advantage of these opportunities. And honestly, it's like one of my biggest regrets, not gonna lie. Like, I wish I went to Hungary, but I will be going to Hungary soon, next year at some point. Finally. It's been some time since I've wanted to do that. It's fine. But yeah, an airport is still cool even if it flies to only one place. Although the weird thing about the airport is there isn't really a bus that goes there, so getting to the airport is super inconvenient. You either need one of your very kind, generous friends to drop you off at the airport, or you have to take the bus and then walk 30 minutes. Like, take the bus to, like, Prisma, like, that area, and then walk. I've taken a scooter from the airport before, but that was in the summer, so obviously you can only do that, like, half the year. Another thing, I'm terrible at ice skating and cross-country skiing, but those things are very accessible. Where I've lived in Lappeenranta, I can literally just take my cross-country skis and walk out to the trail and try to do that, and just make sure I don't piss other people off because I suck. And one time I didn't know how to get out of the way for a guy, so I just fell over, and that worked. Probably something that if you suck at downhill snowboarding and skiing, you would also do. Okay, so... Again, that's all like irrespective of interactions with other people. Now, again, I talked a lot in the last video about how the struggle in Lappeenranta is around the interpersonal relationships because of the codependency thing that tends to happen And again, that's a personal experience. Some people don't have issues with that, although I've seen a lot of other people also have that challenge, so I know I'm not the only one. But the codependency thing, and I think, variety of access to people. One of the problems, I guess it's a problem, is, eventually everybody moves to Helsinki. And then I always find that when I'm in Helsinki, people are like, ooh, tell me when you're in Helsinki, let's meet up. And it's like, that laundry list is now probably exceeding 20 people. So it's very difficult. And I honestly don't prioritize people in any particular order other than who I think might be available or who I feel like I have not seen the most recently. Now, in terms of being in Lappeenranta, okay, so one of the things I'd actually like to say, and I should have said this at the beginning, is I do very much so appreciate the engagement from Finnish people. So thank you, everybody who has left comments and shared your experience and had opinions about this, because while Finnish people are very interested in or curious about, foreign people sometimes, being in the country, especially Americans, I guess, because it's like a little bit more obscure and you don't just like have this, influx, that's the word I'm looking for, of Americans coming to Finland to study the same way you would have people from for whatever reason. And I guess there has to be some sort of agreement, like people from Pakistan, people from Vietnam, very specifically that I've noticed. Yeah, those two countries, I'm actually trying to figure out why. I should do some research on why that's the case, or just start asking those people, because, and I get that those are more densely populated countries, but there are some people from China, but it's not as abundant as people from Pakistan and Vietnam. So if you're watching this and you're from one of those countries, please tell me how it is that so many people from your countries end up in the US. Well, that too, I suppose. Actually, not even. Really, it's a Finland thing. A lot of the Pakistani people in the US, their parents came to the US and then they're first generation. Vietnamese people, same, from the people I've met. So just, being the immigrant yourself, very interesting situation. Okay, so Finnish people are interested in why foreign people are coming to their country. Yes. However, in Lappeenranta, and I don't know if this is because you're in the countryside and it's less international, but I do find that it is harder to connect with and be friends with Finnish people who are here. I almost feel like it would be something that theoretically be easier in Helsinki because they're more used to foreigners. And don't get me wrong, that's not every single person. I just found that it was so much harder for me to break into the Finnish social circles than it was for me to just have other random international friends, because then you kind of have the starting point of learning about international people things. I don't even know. I feel like taxes is a big topic that comes up with international people. Well, maybe that was just the discussion yesterday, because I learned this interesting thing about gift tax, which in the US the limit for that is $17,000, and in Finland apparently per year, okay? And in Finland it's 5,000 euros per every 3 years, which is so wild to me. Also, how many instances are you having where one singular person is giving you that much money? Don't know. Really, I couldn't tell you, but this is something I learned and something to keep in mind in case you were receiving money from one person for one particular thing. So, very interesting. Okay, anyway, so that's the kind of stuff that I'll talk to other international people about. And one of the things I like about being in Finland is I'm constantly learning that kind of stuff, because obviously I already know how the system works in the US, so there's not really as much of a need for me to discuss these sorts of things with people. Okay, so I guess one of the things with being in Lappeenranta is there are a lot of younger people here, because again, what naturally tends to happen is the people who get older, and this isn't even just the random people from densely populated areas who are international people who then move to Helsinki, but even the Finnish people who are master's students would then move to Helsinki and commute to Lappeenranta just to take their exams. So it feels like there are a lot of really young people at the university. Not everybody, because, it's pretty common in Finland to go back to school, go back to uni. I don't know, that's not a taboo. I wouldn't say it's as much of a taboo in the US, but like it seems a lot more accepted here. And I think just because there's a lot more financial support for it. Like in the US, you're really spreading yourself thin financially if you're trying to do that stuff later in life. People still do it, don't get me wrong. But a lot of times it's like people starting a second career because they just want to be in something that makes more money. It's not really just like, oh, because I just felt like studying engineering. So, okay, it's a lot of like young people, which I'm not so young anymore. So I have like grown accustomed to interacting with a lot of younger people than me. And, you know, that's both good and bad. It just is a fact. Okay. And it's like I do have other PhD student friend people I talk to. I feel like they tend to be a bit more serious. So, as in, they're not you know, the like partying thing is pretty prevalent here, which I had heard because, you know, it's kind of the middle of nowhere relatively, so people are bored. I mean, same thing during COVID. I remember hearing that on the news, like when you would go through anybody's neighborhood in the US and you'd look in the recycling bin, it was like so many beer bottles because people were just bored at home, so they were drinking a lot. Yep, so naturally boredom leads to people drinking, I suppose. How do you overcome that? Stop being bored. Have a busier schedule. I don't know what to say. So, okay, this video is supposed to be about things I like. Okay, so yes, I enjoy interacting with people from a variety of age groups. I actually do not care how old people are. And I also enjoy the fact that while it's not as international in general in Lappeenranta, as it is in Helsinki, let's say, or the greater Helsinki region, there are still enough international people that I feel like it keeps it very interesting. And also, Finnish people, depending on, you know, their level of feeling positive or negative towards Russian people, because I know that's, you know, a delicate historical subject. When I explained that part of me coming to Lappeenranta was because I wanted to be able to practice Russian still, people are very like, why would you come to Finland to practice Russian? Well, no, I did not come to Finland specifically to practice Russian. I came to Finland to get a master's degree on a Fulbright scholarship. But I deliberately chose Lappeenranta, not just for the program, which that was, you know, number one, like in my priority situation list thing, but it was also because I knew that by being in Lappeenranta, due to proximity to the Russian border, there would no doubt be a considerable amount of Russian-speaking people. Makes sense. It's the same thing if you're like in Texas and you're closer to Mexico. Where do you think you're going to hear more Spanish in the US? There or like New Jersey? Obviously Texas. So same situation, just, you know, commonsensical there. And so that's one thing I like, you know, hearing Russian a lot and being able to use Russian. Now that's in a lot of places in Finland. That's not just in Lappeenranta, but there is that. So that was one thing that was very attractive to me. And with there being a considerable amount of Russian international students, I was fortunate that I always had Russian roommates somehow. I had like 9 different roommates and 4 of them. That doesn't feel right. I feel like it was more. I had 7, just kidding, over the course of 2 years, because I was in a 3-bedroom one, and 4 of them were Russian speaking. And 3 of them out of those 4, I would speak to only in Russian. So it was actually very good practice for me. Then I have other Russian-speaking people who don't like speaking to me in English. Or then I have some who I speak to sometimes in Russian when I see them, sometimes in English when I see them. But that is something, like, I love. So, yeah. So I think it's just, for me, it's, like, how beautiful it is, really. I have, like, an aesthetic affinity for Lappeenranta and just the way that the lake looks. Like, I could just spend every single day for the rest of my life looking at the lake and be happy. Like, I mean that very sincerely. And it is the perfect amount of socially stimulating that I need to feel at peace. I always kind of thought about my social desire maybe as like a social meter I would need to fill up during the day, and having these very surface level interactions with people was enough for me to feel socially fulfilled. So again, going back to the idea of having very, very close relationships with people is uncomfortable for me. That was actually, I have a video about my neuropsych eval, and the thing I always look at and laugh about on there is feels uncomfortable when people try to become emotionally close, which, like, yeah, I'm gonna be honest, that's totally true. Even though I feel like I'm pretty open about expressing, like, how I feel about things, it also just feels like that's a little bit detached sometimes and can be kind of difficult for other people to grasp, and therefore I don't always want to talk about that. So, yeah. But, yeah, I mean, and again, if time and money were no objects, like, I would totally love to dedicate more time speaking Finnish, and I feel like this would be a better place to do it than Helsinki, because, you know, I mean, it is still a city, and I do still get around with speaking English in Lappeenranta, but I think it could be a better place to actually try to integrate a little bit more with a Finnish-speaking community, because there just aren't as many, like, immigrants here as in, like, Ranta particularly, right? Or just, like, in Helsinki in general. So, yeah. But I guess it comes down to aesthetically, I love it. I like the opportunity for speaking Russian. I like the amount of people around. I think it's very well suited for my preferences. And the running trail, that's actually number one, aside from aesthetically pleasing. Although I guess those two kind of go together. I think location-wise, it's pretty decent. I like that it's near a university. I like universities in general. And I like that there are enough international people to meet. And it's like people do come here with their families. So it's like there are older people. It's not like it's only like, you know, bachelor students. So that's everything that I think I have for this. Pretty long. And again, I will get back to recording on next Monday or Tuesday, potentially. I wanted to talk about the difference between hackathons in the US and in Finland, because there was a pretty stark contrast in my experience, having gone to Junction very recently. So I think I'll leave that for next week. I hope I don't forget my points on that. I just felt like this video was higher priority because of the Lappeenranta video getting pretty popular. Okay. So that's everything that I have for today. Thank you for listening to this. I need to go worry about getting my nails done soon by my Russian girl. Yes, excited. Love a Russian manicure. Okay, so until next time, thank you. Bye.